Two things. If you want your campaigns to be better, doing more work around your ICP is going to probably yield you the best result you can get. And then second, if you're looking at AI, is reimagine just one workflow, start to finish, that's cross-functional. Just rethink it. And I think those are two things. If you want like value right out of the box, those are two things you can do.
One thing we didn't get to, which I probably should have brought up, the one thing that is happening in the space right now, pace. Pace is accelerated unlike anything I've ever seen. And I actually, Kathy, have a text right now from, my friend who owns the auto home agency, and she's like, hey, I've never seen anything like this. Like inventory's going like that. Everything is so fast. And I said,
Hey, you're listening to Cracking the Code, the podcast for leaders building and growing service-based businesses. If you are in legal or medical or financial services, if you have letters behind your name that qualify you to do what you do for a living, you are in the right place. I am your host, Rob Briggs, here to bring you intel and access that are designed to decode how technology can be and should be impacting your growth. All right, let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to Cracking the Code. Today, I am talking with Kathy and Patrice, the co-founders of Inverta, a B2B growth marketing firm that works with companies like SAP, Skillsoft, Thomson Reuters. And what makes them a little bit different is just they don't just create marketing strategies that look good on paper. They actually understand how to execute. And Kathy, Patrice, thank you so much for being on today. Why don't you take a second and give a more in-depth introduction to yourselves and your company?
I'll go first. Patrice Greene. I am co-founder with Kathy. I wear the CEO hat here. My background, I've spent the past 20 years in B2B marketing on this side of the house, on agency services side, supporting primarily, large B2B tech brands and how they can leverage, strategy and technology to impact their growth goals. So, yeah.
Nice.
And then Kathy. So for me, I'm a long-term survivor of the tech industry, and I was actually in IT before marketing. So I think I bring a little different perspective. It's more like, how do you have your strategy, your data, your systems, your team all work together? Because that is how people experience your brand these days. It's how you set up all the back end and work. So. Absolutely. There's so many pieces to tie together and dive into there. But why don't we start with some of your experience? So you've worked with hundreds of companies over 25 years. What's one mistake that you see repeated time and time again? That when people first come to you, what's something that they've done they shouldn't have?
I can do one, and then Kathy, I'd love your. I feel like honestly, people land on our doorstep when they've gone right to tactics, when they've gone right to channels and tactics. They haven't thought about readdressing how work gets done. They haven't thought about the strategy. A really clear example of this is ABM. Everybody thinks about it of, I bought a tool, I'm going to do ABM, or I have a target account list, I'm going to go run ads to them. And at a certain point, they don't get the outcomes they wanted from that. It doesn't scale within their organization. It's in a pocket of the business. And so if they really want to impact the business at scale from that perspective, that's usually when they end up on our doorstep.
It's hard to scale tactics without strategy in place, right? It's huge. So in marketing often fails at the implementation layer, I'd find. So what do you do? How, if somebody does come to your doorstep, how do you kind of walk back tactics that are failing? You just scrap it all and start from scratch with strategy, or how do you do so in a way that is most efficient for your clients?
Patrice, I'll let you start on that, and I know I'll chime in.
That's a good way to do it. No, you don't scrap. You don't scrap everything they've done. We used to have this adage that you meet our clients where they are. Right. And so, oftentimes there could be things that are done well. Our clients are really smart people. So it's not that you scrap everything. You kind of evaluate what is working, identify where the gaps are, and then go back and fix where the gaps are. But Kath, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of it comes around either ABM or campaigns or tech. And I think you just have to back up. Like, they are where they are. Like, you've got to have something in market. And so you can't just take everything out. And I think you back up first, like, Who is your target audience? Like, do you have the segment right? Like, that's going to account for most of the success of your campaign. And we have different ways to go around ICP. Then what is your offer and your content? And you just slowly, as you get better at those two things, your campaigns will get better. So I think it's just start where they are and just start to chip away at where you make improvements along the way.
Sure. For somebody that has not yet met you, is there a way? Are there symptoms that they can look at? How do they recognize? How do they see themselves in your story here?
Oh gosh, so many ways. Often not getting the results that they're looking for out of their campaigns. There's one that gets unaddressed. I think when you think about marketing service providers, you oftentimes think about agencies, but there's a lot of us out there that aren't necessarily agency, like outsource work. We're about helping your teams work more effectively. And in the world now with AI, really about how your teams cross-functionally operate in order to surround your target audience in the way where they're experiencing your brand and the way you envision them experiencing your brand. So oftentimes my team isn't operating the way that I want them to operate, or I need to rethink the operating model of marketing. Those are typically ones. And right now, a lot is I've got a lot of individual contributors that are using AI. Everybody in the business is using it. They're all using it to varying degrees, but I can't necessarily say that we're driving impact in the business. And that's a big impetus for coming to us.
Yeah, that's huge. And one of the fears that a lot of companies have in engaging with an agency or even anybody outsourced is that they're going to try to come in and take over my team and replace all of these these people that I have that have been in the organization for 10 plus years. Do you have ways to kind of alleviate those fears?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go, Kath, and then you can answer. But I think it depends on size of business. Oftentimes, if it's a smaller business and maybe they have some marketers that have been with the business from the start, but aren't necessarily at the level they need them to now that they're maybe investing more in the sales and marketing engine of the business, our job is to come in and up level. Our job is to come in and sort of help them look better and grow and evolve, right? And maybe bring some frameworks or methodologies to the table that they haven't thought of. Versus our large enterprises, oftentimes it's an outside third-party perspective that's navigating, right, and helping to moderate within the room of different stakeholders and different departments, or, representing different functions across the business. So, I'd say most of our clients have been clients at multiple brands across multiple years. So they certainly bring us in, not, because they think that we're going to replace them, but because hopefully we make them look good.
Right. Love that. Kathy, you have a take?
Yeah, I mean, same as Patrice's. I think what happens is if you start out as a company, if everyone can sit around a table, you can figure out how to get things done. Like Rob, you do this, Patrice, you do this. And then once you start to grow, that changes. It's like all that current work gets fragmented and they can't figure out how to scale. And part of it's because it lives in people's heads. The data's not there anymore. I mean, you can't pull all those signals together. There's so many things that handoffs are informal, and you've got to put process in place. And that's the part I think that gets left out. We have all this other stuff, but unless your teams know how to work together through RACIs, workflows, SLAs, things just don't happen. And AI is just the next version of that problem. That was just with tech, and AI just amplifies it.
Rob, we would joke that we would sometimes be introducing marketers to each other when we would hold workshops.
Yes.
Oftentimes, the media team doesn't know, the product marketing, whatever it may be. And so, and the other one that we would say a lot is if you ask different marketing teams the definition of a campaign, they're all going to give you a different answer. Because how a social media team thinks about a campaign is very different, right, than a field marketer or product marketer. So,
or your Salesforce admin, because they call it something totally different in Salesforce.
Yeah.
Right. It's so true. It's the most interesting thing probably that I've seen in a long time that you're on the phone with 15 people and from the same company and they've never met. It's half of them, which is interesting. But so you're there for the introductions. Hi, I'm Rob, and then other people are also introducing. But so funny. There is. So you brought up a lot of good points. So over the years, marketing has become more and more data driven. right? And it's the old adage that before half of my budget was working and half wasn't, and I never knew which half. And now data has empowered decisions to actually know what's actually working down to the click, right? But AI has a tendency to make a lot more data. How do you keep that straight?
So I'll jump in on this one. I think if you look at all the marketing technology and data, it's all at the tactic level. Like, how many clicks, how many sends, how many this, but it doesn't tell you, is your campaign working? And so there's a difference between is your campaign working and how efficient is every channel. And so marketing, for better or worse, because we're all so specialized, like there's your SEO team. Your SEO team who would have no idea how to run a field event. Your field event team has no idea how to create content. Your content team has no idea how to do, email. And so we tend to divide up budget then by tactic. There's my webinar team, there's my email team, there's my media team. So you've set people up really to fight. Like if I'm not saying how much I've configured pipeline, you're going to take my budget. So we've set
Yeah.
it by dynamic where teams can't work together because they would sacrifice their budget and have to get rid of people. And so I think with AI, how do you start moving up a level? And all your campaign should be telling you, are my accounts progressing through the pipeline? Are they stalled? Or are they regressing? And if not, how do all those teams come together to say, what do we need to do in this particular instance? Now, everyone still needs to run their campaign efficiently. You need to measure them on that, but it shouldn't be, how do we actually drive revenue? And I think that's just a problem with marketing has the biggest discretionary budget and probably the most specialized workforce.
Right. With little little to prove, I think. People like CEOs know they need to be marketing, but they don't necessarily understand what questions to ask beyond, is this effective spend? Right. How do what are the numbers, what are the KPIs that you are looking to show to your clients up the chain to prove the value of the marketing strategy, tactics, et cetera, that you're bringing?
So the best thing I'll tell people is look at all your opportunities you've created or your bookings, depending where you are in that sales cycle. And you don't look at Salesforce. You just look at all the marketing engagement. Now, ahead of time, you have to decide what counts as a response. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then just add them up. I don't even weight them. And I guarantee in general, what you see is the more engagement you have at the account, the higher the win rate and the larger the deal value. And if you can show that it's not causation, it's correlation, like you can just show it's like, and it's sort of like what I call the early warning system. Like, no kidding. Like, oh, wow, if someone's not engaging with us, they're not buying. But if you start to do statistical analysis, you'll start to see there's usually a breaking point. Like it could be for some, after 15 engagements, we see a bump, or after 50 engagements. And so again, you want to measure your tactic people. Are they being efficient? But overall, all you should be talking about is that correlation. When marketing is involved, and if you want to get more sophisticated, instead of looking at just touches, you could say, what was the message or the theme? And what was the persona associated with it? Because then you could start to say what messages are landing.
And how many buyers?
But that takes a lot more. How many buyers in the buyers
group did you touch, right? Because if you do all the things that Kathy's talking about and there's only one contact in the database, you're going to see a very big difference versus deals in your pipeline that have 5, 6, 7, 8, right, contacts that are engaging with your content and showing responses to campaigns. Then you're most likely, right, going to see a difference in the size of deal, the velocity of the deal, the win rate of the deal.
And also when you look at it that way, it gives your team something easy. Like you get all these signals and like, what are you really supposed to do with it? But if you look at these accounts only have 5 engagements. Everyone get busy. We know we need to get 3 more people and 50 more engagements. It gives people something concrete to go do, as opposed to look at all these keywords. Look at what you can't.
And Rob, I think for a CEO, like when you think about it, just taking a step back and think you pay the salaries for this whole team, you have, right? Think about, do you want them focused on proving why they should still have a job? Or do you want them focused on how to engage with your audience and have your brand perception be what you want your brand perception to be to that audience and driving pipeline? It's right. Where do you want them focused?
For sure.
Hey, this is Rob Riggs, and I wanted to take just a second to tell you about Code Conspirators, our sponsor here, in that we are a technology-focused performance marketing agency serving professional service firms. So that's legal, medical, financial, engineering. If you have to take a test to do what you do for a living, we help you grow your practice with websites and apps and software in performance marketing. That's organic, paid ads, retargeting, conversion optimization. And we're also doing a whole host of things with CRM, AI, and automation that's been bringing our clients tremendous value. If you're curious at all, go to codeconspirators.com to learn more. Now back to the show.
So at some size of company, brand impressions, brand visibility, direct searches by a brand's name can have an impact in kind of the rising tide, if you will. But for the smaller companies, 2 to 50 mil, let's say, in annual revenue, like brand like visibility it costs a lot more than it may be worth it. Do you guide some of your smaller clients in how to think about that?
I mean, I would say right now, most of our smaller clients are really focused on AEO, right? Really focused on, SEO and AEO because they're not going to win, especially if they're in a space that's pretty competitive from an ad spend perspective or bidding on keywords or whatever it may be. They're not going to win that war, right? So, so most of them are focused more on what they can win organically. But Kath, I don't know if you have a different.
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, you're not going to win against a huge media budget.
The other thing, though, to the point of like not to bring it back to ABM, but a lot tends to come back to that area. The other thing, though, is where we do spend a lot of time with those clients, really saying that honing in of the ICP and figuring out where you want to focus and where you want your program dollars to go and where you want to spend your time, effort, and money becomes critically more important than, again, how much you're going to spend on ads or what channel you're going to use or whatnot. Like really getting ICP locked in is probably the thing that's going to set you up for success more than anything else.
For sure. And even when you're competing against the Goliaths, if you will, if you're super tight on here's who you're looking for and here's who I am and what makes me different, what makes me special, it's a lot easier to beat some of those larger companies who are out there everywhere. Right. Any
Well, and
thoughts
the other
on?
thing, you're not spending your budget like on a peanut butter spread. You're spending it on a very focused group. And that's where, to me, you have to get very tight with your BDR team because that needs to be one
Sure.
motion. They can't be separate off doing things.
Right. The conflation of sales and marketing teams has been incredible. And then we started carving them out into their own silos. And I don't know if you're seeing the same thing. It's now like we're all coming back together. We're all responsible for revenue. We're all responsible for visibility and business development. Yeah, you're seeing the same.
Yes,
absolutely.
So,
in fact, everyone's really rethinking that BDR role now. Like that, even more than marketing, that role is probably being affected most by AI right now. I mean, that's what we're seeing. Because everyone from above, all the executives are reading the same magazine on the airplane. Oh, we should be getting rid of BDRs. Why do we need them? And so I think they have really, that needs to be one motion now, marketing and BDRs. BDRs can also give you a lot of feedback on, is this messaging landing? Where were those folks? How did they find, like, they were a wealth of information if you get them trained well.
Oh, sure. And it's often that first rung on the ladder who's dealing face to face with your buying group. You need that touch point, but they're often the people that get replaced first because it's easy to plug in and throw in an AI bot that's supposed to do that job for them. Interesting. Have you seen stories, positive or negative, about that happening?
I do. We have one client who I think they had over 70 BDRs and got rid of all but about 7 and now hired back probably 25 plus more.
Okay.
But I think where I see, Rob, there's a big decision going on now. Is like with AI, you can really it can look at your sales, like it can pull a lot of that account intelligence in place for you. And so some of them are training their BDRs and some are putting that more on an SME to pull together to give to their BDRs. And I think it's just where do you want that intelligence and judgment to sit? And I see companies pretty much split on it right now.
Interesting. So you've guided some fairly large companies on go-to-market transformations. What does that enterprise level complexity look like that smaller companies don't usually think about?
Go ahead, Patrice.
I was going to say it's like night and day, right? We are a different partner to a small business than we are to a large enterprise. But on the large enterprise side, I'd say the thing is that we really understand the complexities, right, of how they work. That they are multinational companies. We're working across multiple geos, across many product lines, across different departments, across different business units. And so their problems are way more complex, are typically not very easy, and they rarely come to us with a project that is in a neat little box. Oftentimes they come to us with a really big problem statement that is, we have no idea how to even think about addressing this problem. And so the first job that we have is really breaking down this big problem statement into how do you even, right, tackle this? What's the approach that we would take to tackle this? And that almost 100% of the time incorporates something related to strategy, business process, change management. But as Kathy said, it usually always manifests itself in what does this look like inside systems, and how is this going to support the team in the way they operate. So those two, and that's core to who we are, those two of sort of the business process, the strategy, the change management, and then how does it all kind of manifest within technology, data, systems, AI, right? That's usually where we really focus with the large enterprises, but it's extremely complex problems that we don't hear about, right, in our smaller businesses.
Yeah, that's fair. It's the problems are a lot more direct, I'd say. So, Kathy, if we could shift just for a second, your IT background is pretty unusual for somebody leading marketing innovation, right? How does that technical foundation change the way that your company approaches its marketing problems?
It might be a better view from Patrice to hear how she thinks it happens. I can tell you how I think it happens.
I mean, I think Kat's got this technical background that is so critically important, but don't let her sell herself short. She's got a strategic brain like no other, right? And so, I think having come from the background that she's come from, she really understands that you have to tackle it at the business problem level. And really, I find asking the questions that maybe nobody's asking yet or thinking about yet, because what happens in technology is like, however many steps downstream. But we used to say it's chicken and egg, right? Strategy and technology. And so thinking about how to tackle a problem and knowing what's capable and what's not feasible, right? From a technology or from a business process, or what's going on inside that organization, or how fragmented their data is, right? That is really, I think, where her true, like, she can really work through those problems better than most people with that tech background.
Nice.
It is how people experience your brand now. I mean, Rob, I can give you two companies with the exact same tech stack, and they operate totally different.
Yeah.
Not only how quickly can they process the data, how quick can it go through Marketo to go over to Salesforce to go in a queue for someone to follow up. For some companies, that's over 24 hours. For others, it's within 30 minutes, an hour, like how you set that up. Or do you bypass that so you make it quicker? Like that's what Patrice talked about. Like you can have at 100,000-foot level, it all looks great. Oh, Marketo connects to Salesforce, connects to demand base. When you get down 3 or 4 levels, it's not as easy.
Look at who the head of Rev Ops or the head of Marketing Ops is, and see how tenured their role is, how experienced they are, how forward thinking and innovative they are, and you'll really be able to tell the difference between a brand that's probably beating their competitors or not. I think it's a highly strategic role.
It's fair. So it's hard to believe, but we're at time. I want to give you both the opportunity to answer kind of what's something we haven't covered that you feel like would be remiss if we didn't at least touch on.
I feel like we touched on a lot, Kath. I don't know. What did we not hit on?
I think a lot of people. I think there's two things. If you want your campaigns to be better, doing more work around your ICP is going to probably yield you the best result you can get. And then second, if you're looking at AI, is reimagine just one workflow, start to finish, that's cross-functional. just rethink it. And I think those are two things. If you want like value right out of the box, those are two things you can do.
Solid. Yep. Patrice, anything to add?
No, she said it great.
Okay, well said. Yeah, thank you so much, both of you, for being on, and I so much appreciate you both sharing your knowledge and expertise. And look for this to hit the show where everybody gets their podcast. Right, it's Spotify, it's Apple, it's YouTube, it's and then we'll highlight that on social, etc. So thank you both for being on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Great
Rob.
meeting.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Rob.
Okay, great conversation, right? But don't let the episode end here. We have packed the show notes with everything you need to take action. Key takeaways are down there, as well as links to the resources we mentioned in the show. And also grab our assessments. They're the same deep dive analyses that we use with our high-performing clients on a regular basis. And we typically uncover million-dollar opportunities that many firms and practices completely miss on their own. And also remember, every successful firm has started with one person who decided to stop accepting good enough and start demanding exceptional. You can make that decision today. Until next time, we will keep conspiring for your success.